Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to Live from NCCE. And today we have an incredibly special guest. Dan Fitzpatrick, the AI educator, is a keynote speaker at NCCE 2025, February 24th, 26th. So you've got to come to hear him. But he's going to give us a little sneak peek preview and talk a little bit about, well, I'm not really sure. It's a conversation. But I do know that Dan is the senior leader of a secondary school, the director of digital strategy for a college group, founder of the AI Educator and Third Box Limited, as well as, didn't you win a big award a couple of years ago from the Digital Industry Dynamite Awards? You were like tech
Yeah,
champion of the
I was
world
very
or
lucky.
something.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. It, I suppose, I get to do some amazing work with schools, colleges, universities around the world, looking at artificial intelligence, and it's part of my background. So my background is leadership within education, specifically around innovation and technology. And now I get to write books on artificial intelligence. My latest book, Infinite Education, has just been released this week. So really excited about that, looking at kind of the strategy around how we move forward with this crazy technology that's everywhere now.
Isn't it? And I assume that if we come with our books in hand, you'll autograph them at the conference.
Yeah, I can't wait to be with you and to
Um,
meet everybody who's going to be there.
Excellent. Some of our listeners or viewers may not know you're not from here, from
Yeah,
America.
yeah, yeah.
Can you tell us where you're located?
My accent probably sounds quite strange. So I'm from the northeast of England, so a city called Newcastle, and that's where I'm joining you from right now. So I'm looking forward to traveling over the Atlantic and being with you in just a few weeks' time. Really, not too long to go.
We're very excited. So let's start a conversation about AI. I mean, as a classroom teacher for 25 years, I remember back when we introduced the internet into the classroom, and so many teachers were, no, you can't bring that into the classroom. So why do you think now, after experiencing that, and you would think they'd have an understanding, why do you think we're so afraid of AI?
That's a great question, and I think there's so many facets to this new technology that excites people, but also worries people. And I think it's like that with a lot of technology, like you just said, when the internet first came in, and I said probably more recently we're learning of some of the more negative sides of social media and so on. So I think I'm a big believer that technology in itself isn't good or bad. It's what we do with it, and I suppose as part of that, th- this is a new technology. We're figuring out how to use it. It can be, it could, we don't have all the research yet as well. But what we do know is that it's moving at an incredible pace, and that it is already a big part of our world, and will continue to become a huge part of our world. And it is kind of disrupting every sector, every industry out there, not just education. But I believe as education, I don't say education is just another sector. I feel like education is a sector that underpins every other sector because we are preparing people for those worlds. So I think it affects us probably in a more profound way because we are the people who are preparing the next generations to be in this world, which, let's be honest, is gonna have ubiquitous AI. Now, that means we're gonna have to take with the good with the bad, or we're gonna have to take the good and mitigate against the bad. So there's some things out there. I mean, there's quite some of the obvious things. When you first started using AI, you realize, well, actually, if this thing could maybe replace me, could it replace us? And we have that conversation. I don't my keynote talk when I'm with you, I'm gonna address that. I've got some strong opinions on that, and I think bit of an insight. I don't think it will replace us. I think it will replace maybe some of the tasks we do, and if you ask me, rightfully so, because I think a lot we get a lot of tasks heaped on us as teachers, which I think a bit of automation could really help us and actually help us to focus more on the human side of our jobs, which I think our young people are going to need us to do more to counterbalance the technological world they're going to be living in. And So yeah, I suppose there's over reliance on it. A lot of educators worry about students just using it to, in inverted commas, cheat or to get it to do the thinking for them. In my first book, The AI Classroom, I wrote a chapter called "Outsource Your Doing, Not Your Thinking," and I still very much believe that, because we still need to be the main thinkers in this process. Now, AI is getting very good at being able to be novel, at being able to be creative. But I think if we're going to be authentic, if we're going to produce something that represents us, then it has to be our own thought process. That's not to say we can't get AI to help us, to collaborate with us, to do some of the legwork for us. I think that's probably going to be important to be able to do that. But yeah, there's things like all technology that we're going to have to mitigate against. That doesn't mean we should be scared of really embracing the opportunities.
Yeah, I know, probably because I'm of a certain age and I'm a science fiction fan, I always think of 2001 Space Odyssey, right? And
Yeah,
Hal saying, Daisy, I don't think I can do that. So I know that a lot of people have fear just because it's something they can't control, but I wonder, how does one approach parents and family members of students? I remember when we were on the internet again years ago, and parents going, "What do you need the internet for? What are you going to be doing?" And I know that, and I think I've heard this in one of your talks, that parents are worried, people are worried that technology will turn our children into robots. So how do
yeah,
you address that?
yeah. I suppose just before I do that, by the way, the NASA sent up an AI robot to work with them on the space station, which you just reminded me of there. Actually using language models, a bit like ChatGPT, which is fascinating. But yeah, I get to, when I work with school districts and schools, sometimes I get to do some sessions with parents, and as all teachers will know, the parents have a full spectrum of thoughts and emotions on a lot of things, and rightfully so. That they're entrusting us with their children. I noticed there's a lot of parents who work in organizations that are embracing AI and who are saying, well, why aren't you doing more with AI? Why aren't you helping our children embrace AI? And then I see the opposite, where it's kind of like, what why are you why would you want to introduce a cheating machine into the lesson? Surely that's counterintuitive to education. So yeah, I see every perspective. I think what we need to do is we need to work with parents. And in fact, in my new book, Infinite Education, I make a really strong case for the fact that if we do want to innovate for the future, we we have to make more of an effort to for it to be community based, and that involves local businesses, local politicians, our wider community, our actual students and what they think, and the parents as well, because we're entering a time where I think we're not 100% sure where this is going to go, and the media will tell us it could be the end of the world and a Terminator style situation. I mean, the media love a good doomsday headline. I don't think we're gonna get there, but we see a lot of the sensationalized headlines out there, and our parents are seeing that as well. So I think we need to reassure them. They need to know that we're working with them, that we're taking on their points of view, but also, as educators, we are also the professionals who know that actually we've got to prepare these students for the world as it is, not how we'd like it to be. And the world as it is, let's say you're a high school teacher, the world that, let's say, your student's going to be going into in 5, 6, 7 years time is going to be a very changed world from today. There's an American entrepreneur called Peter Diamandis who said that we will see more technological change in the next 10 years than we have in the preceding 100 put together. Now, I used to think that was hyperbole, but I'm beginning to see how that's actually going to be the case now. And I want to share, when I do that keynote for you all in a few weeks' time, I'm going to share some of the insights of the technology that's going on. And it is a bit like you mentioned 2001: A Space Odyssey. It is a bit like a sci-fi movie. Some of the things that are going on behind the scenes. So I think we need to look. Teachers have got so much going on, and it's almost it's almost crazy to go now think about this whole thing as well. That's going to change the world. But I think it's going to be part of our lives. It's going to be part of our students' lives, and so we need to know about it in order to prepare our students for it.
Oh, absolutely. Same as when we introduced the internet, because that's something it's ubiquitous now. It's a given. So I think the same thing will be of AI, particularly with their future careers.
I think
Already
so.
we're seeing careers that are involving AI, and you're kind of like, wow, that's insane.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about, I don't know if you've heard of the Washington Office of the Superintendent in the state of Washington here in the United States. And they have a whole policy on using AI in their district. And they have a saying, which I love, and I've got it written down so I don't blow it. And it's uses of AI should always start with human inquiry and always end with human reflection, human insight, and human empowerment.
Mm.
And I love the idea of we don't want to lose that human touch or that human, right? We want to be able to form the question and then take a look at what it gives us and then be able to discern. Because, and perhaps you could speak to this, can we always trust AI? Because after all, it is human created. So we have some implicit or built-in bias and, other things that one has to discern. So digital literacy for AI?
Yeah, and I think that's a great question. I don't think we're ever going to get to a point where we can fully trust it. Now, I think at the moment I don't think we can fully trust it because it gets things wrong. I mean, it's not thinking; it's simply just coming out. I mean, you can kind of think of it. It's a bit more than this, but you can think of it as a bit of a probability machine that is so finely tuned that it's like, I think ChatGPT 4 is on average between 94 and 97% accurate. So it's very, very accurate, but we've still got those few percentage points where it can get things wrong. And you don't want to be in a disastrous situation where you are just taking information from this thing and presenting it as your own. Now, I'm sure probably some of us will have experienced our students doing that, and it doesn't take much to see through that. And it's the same with us as well. There's the famous case of last year of a lawyer in the United States who was disbarred because he did just that, and the judge saw right through it. I think as this technology advances, and it will get more accurate. I think I can say that quite safely. It could get to the point where it's actually making decisions, and our brains can't actually keep up with the reasoning behind it because it is so advanced. And I still think in that position where it could even be more intelligent than us, we still can't trust it as well. We still need to understand it. So I think across the whole spectrum, whether it be the worst AI we'll ever have, which is right now, or it's going to be advanced AI, we still need to be the agents behind that. Simply because it's our world, isn't it? We want to understand it. We want to be able to be our authentic selves. We want to be able to have a meaningful contribution to it. And I think once we get into that area of something else, whether that be a machine to do the meaningful things for us, I would kind of question, well, why do it in the first place? So I think we want to be at the forefront of it, and especially education, because as we know from a lot of evidence, as we know from decades of experience, centuries of experience, education is ultimately a community event. It's a relational event, and that relational event is between human beings.
Absolutely. And it's interesting to think about when you were talking about other teachers, and there are some teachers who are embracing this and who are super excited because they can see the benefits to them, particularly as you mentioned earlier with the routine things, grading a quick paper or whatever. But I was recently, I do some training for NCCE, and I was recently in a place training on AI, and there was a shop teacher who sat there like this the whole time. And when I let them loose to play, she said, "This can't do anything for me. I teach shop." And I said, "Well, what would you want it to do?" "Well, it couldn't plan a lesson on, I'm not a shop teacher. I can't come up with what she had, but it was, drilling something." And I said, "Well, ask it. All you can do is ask." So She typed it in and her eyes got as big as saucers, and suddenly she saw all these possibilities for it to create the lesson plan, and it came up with some things where she said, oh, I do that, but I didn't think of that. And so how do you suggest we reach out to those teachers who are like the teachers in the old days with the internet? Oh, I don't think I want to play with that.
I think you've pretty much answered that in yourself. I think we need to somehow get them to use it themselves. It's interesting. I was reading something about this the other day, that when these AI models are first developed, and you have the people at the company who developed it testing it out, and they have metrics and benchmarks that it passes, so that they can kind of market their product and show the world what it can do. They're not experts on every field in the world, and of every skill. So they release these AI products, and they are still scratching the surface of what this is capable of. And it's actually up to us in our own area of expertise to push these things to see what they're capable of. And so we have a really important, vital role here to test these things out, see what they're capable of. There are some things right now, a lot of things that they're not capable of. And so you like, I sometimes get teachers, if I'm doing a workshop with teachers, and they might ask me, oh, what would it be able to help me with this? And whatever it might be, I might say, well, actually, do you need it to do that? Why does technology need to do that for you? You could do that yourself, and actually it'd probably be more meaningful if you do it yourself. So I'm not saying this is not going to do everything for you. And I think educational technology has suffered in recent decades of over promising and under delivering. This is going to change your world, and then doesn't. Like, that happens in waves, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This I think AI is going to have a profound impact on the world, and I think it's only really going to change your world if you're willing to reach out and start to use it, and start to find use cases for it for yourself, to start to asking it. It's interesting. Again, when I'm doing these workshops, I will show like the web page for something like ChatGPT and say, we're dealing with one of the most advanced platforms, technology ever created here, but notice how simple it looks. It essentially looks like a WhatsApp conversation or a Facebook Messenger conversation, that because all you have to do is start talking to it. That's all you have to do. And just like when we started having this conversation, Tammy, I don't know the extent of your knowledge, your skills, yeah, we both come to this conversation with a wealth of experience, with parts about our lives we might never know. And the only way we dig down is to actually have a conversation, is to go back and forth with each other, is to ask questions, is to and it's to elicit responses out of each other. And that's pretty much exactly what we have to do with this technology. And interestingly enough, I believe that educators already have those skills, because that's what we do with students. We model answers for them. We try to get them to learn and to respond to us in certain ways, that we can understand their learning. And a lot of those skills work really well with AI. And I think we just have to almost switch something on in our heads, where we go, actually, I can apply the skills I already have to this technology. And in that way, I think it's unlike any other technology we've ever had, because the machines now speak our language. So the actual it's interesting, because again, I talk to some people a bit like the person you were talking about earlier, who will cross their arms and they'll say, well, I'm not a technical person, so there's no way I can't even switch a computer on, never mind do AI. And I'm like, well, actually, if as long as you can get to the website, then that's it in terms of technical skills. Technical skills aren't needed anymore. You just have to have almost human conversation. And in that sense, that excites me, because the computers now speak our language, and we're pretty good at that. We're pretty good at that already. So it's a great starting point to be at. And there's some amazing things going on there. There's teachers helping them with planning, helping them with giving feedback for students, but being being the thinker, not outsourcing that thinking, but assisting them. I sometimes say to teachers, imagine your principal came in to your classroom one day and said, right, we're going to employ somebody who will be somebody who works just for you and will write a first draft of anything you want. So in the morning you say, right, I need this, 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 and this, and by lunchtime they have produced a first draft. Now it's not the perfect end draft. It's not. It will still need your expertise to update it and make it the best it can be. I think a lot of teachers would break down and cry and say, yes, please. I think that's what AI can offer us right now. That's the level of where AI is at right now. Will that replace us? Of course not. Of course not. But it will help us reduce some workload. It will help us maybe be a bit more efficient. It will help us maybe focus our time on the things that the job we enjoy more. Maybe the more creative side, the more relational side. And if the bit about the job you enjoy more is that first draft, you don't have to use it. Nobody's going to force you. So I think it's a win-win. But I think explore it, see what it can do for you, ask it questions, ask it to do things, and never stop at the first response. Always push it. Always say, do it better. Always say, I sometimes say, yeah, that was a 5 out of 10. Now give me a 10 out of 10. Or just there's little ways we can push it. And when I join you in a few weeks' time, we'll explore some of those.
Yeah, you make an excellent point, because it really is about the quality of the question that you ask GPT or Chat GPT or AI, isn't it? And it's I was thinking about how teaching students, ask the right questions. How do you formulate that? And to be able to use that technique, asking the right question, and apply it to AI to get what you want.
Yeah,
right.
And I remember when I was training to be a teacher, so one of the professors saying, actually practice the questions you're going to ask your students, because we don't realize just how sometimes confusing we can be when we ask questions, or and also we've got a range of students in front of us. One of them might understand it straight away, another one might need a visual cue to go alongside it, another one might need a quick one-on-one chat afterwards so that they fully understand it. And again, I think it's similar with AI. The first time we ask it something, it might not fully grasp what we're asking it. So we need to we could model it for it. We could say, could you make it look like this? Could you? We could give it an example, and so on. That it's all those things we already know and already do every day. But now we can use those skills with technology, which blows my mind still.
Yeah, I love the fact that you're talking about how AI can be used to save time for teachers by doing those mundane things, so that we have more time to craft lessons for our students and build the relationships that need to be there. Because as you said, it's all about relationships. I live in the Central Valley of California. It's very agricultural, and we say the best fertilizer is the footsteps of the farmer. So if the teacher can be out there and cultivate and nurture and have the time to do that, while Chat GPT or AI is over there doing something else, what a benefit. How does a teacher take their first step into the world of AI if they're taking that very first one? What do you recommend?
I would probably two approaches. I would probably check to see if there's somebody else in your school, another teacher who's using it already. I think sometimes when we use these tools, the limitation is our own imagination. And so to have other people who we can bounce ideas off, other colleagues, I think is really important, because they might say, oh, have you tried asking it this? And you might be like, oh, I never even thought of that. I never even thought of even asking it that. And I use this technology every day, and I still have those moments regularly where I'm like, oh, I didn't even think of asking it that. And I think our own imagination sometimes holds us back. If there's nobody else, or you just want to dive into it yourself, go to somewhere like ChatGPT. I mean, if you just type in chat.com, you don't even have to log in to start using it now. You can just start talking to it and type in. I mean, even just start with hello, and it'll say hello back. It sounds really weird if you've never done it before, but and then say to it, like, I think the first ever question I asked, because like my passion is the future of education, and I think the first time I asked it, I just said, what do you think the future of education looks like? And it started answering back and started giving some thoughts on that. And then I think once you've had a conversation with it, maybe ask it to do something. And that, it doesn't even have to be educational. Maybe say, like, in my refrigerator I've got these 4 items and I don't know what to make for dinner, and see what and it'll give some suggestions, and I think you'll start to get a sense of what it can do. And to be fair, there's not much it can't do in terms of a back and forth question and answer. And then start to think, well, I wonder if it could. I'm teaching on earthquakes next week. I wonder if it can form a few questions for me. Maybe it can ask those questions and do it in the style of Bloom's taxonomy, solo taxonomy, bring in some pedagogy and just work your way up. And yeah, I think we've almost got to, I think, to discover this technology, we've got to go back to play with it a little bit. And I think that's what our students need to do as well. And I think probably the greatest skill, is it a skill? I'm not sure, but is curiosity. I think it's being curious and I think it's probably also what we're going to have to pass on to our students as well, who I think are going to need to be curious in a world of AI, because curiosity is going to drive them to ask those questions, to find answers, to apply those answers, to discover things. And I think our students, and like I said before, our wider community need to go on that curious journey together.
Oh, I love that. That is so perfect. Yes. I was going to say, people could also go to Twitter and follow you at the AI Educator, or X. I know it's called X. And you have a website. They could search you out, or they could come to the NCCE conference, February 24 to 26. And if you go to the website to sign up, there's Dan. Oh, I just disappeared. There's Dan, and he's going to be our keynote.
I don't have as much hair anymore.
You look stunning. Anyway, Dan, thank you so much for your time, your talent. I'm so excited to meet you in real life in about a month or so. So thank you again, and can't wait to see you. And everyone else, thank you for joining us on Live from NCCE with the amazing Dan Fitzpatrick. And do come to the conference to see him and check him out on Twitter and on his website. Dan, thank you again, and everyone.
Thank you, Tammy. Take care, everyone. See you soon.
Bye. And that's it from Live from NCCE.